Search her name alongside the words daily routine, and you'll find dozens of videos claiming Princess Leonor wakes up at 5 in the morning, every single day, for years, without exception. It's a compelling detail. It's also not quite right. What she actually wakes up to is arguably more demanding than that number suggests, and once you understand what her real schedule has looked like across 3 separate military academies, you'll understand why the price of her position isn't really about the hour on her alarm clock. It's about everything that hour represents. Let's get into what her actual routine has looked like, and why it matters more than the exaggerated version everyone else is repeating. According to sources at the General Military Academy in Zaragoza, where Leonor began her training in August 2023, cadets follow a fixed daily schedule that starts at 6:30 in the morning and runs until 11 at night, with theoretical lessons filling the morning, physical and tactical training filling the afternoon, and a strict curfew closing out the day. This wasn't a symbolic schedule designed for a royal guest. It was the same schedule followed by every one of the roughly 610 cadets who joined the academy alongside her that year. She shared a room with other students, used shared showers and toilets, and was explicitly instructed to be treated, in the words of Spain's Minister of Defense Margarita Robles, like an ordinary student. That pattern held throughout the second phase of her training at the Naval Military School in Marin, and again during her final phase at the General Air and Space Academy in San Javier, a base known within the military by the nickname La Cueva, the Cave, because of its exceptionally demanding training standards. There, réveil came again at 6:30, with classes running until 6 in the evening and lights out at 10:15 at night, a schedule that left remarkably little room for anything resembling a typical 20-year-old's day. Here's what made the San Javier phase distinct from the 2 that came before it. This wasn't just physical endurance and academic study anymore. It involved learning to operate a Pilatus PC-21 trainer aircraft, starting with computer-based training, then moving to a flight simulator that replicates the aircraft's actual cockpit, then eventually progressing to dual-control flights with an instructor before, if she proved ready, a first solo flight. Observers close to the program have described this phase as potentially the most psychologically demanding part of her entire military journey, not because of the physical difficulty, but because of what it asks of her mentally, taking manual control of a 2,200-kilogram aircraft more than 10,000 meters above the ground. Now here's the detail that connects all 3 of these training phases into something bigger than just an intense schedule, something that explains why this routine represents a genuine sacrifice most people her age will never have to understand. I'll walk you through exactly what that connection is in a few minutes, because it reframes everything about what those 6:30 wake-up calls actually cost her. But first, if you're the kind of person who wants the accurate version of a story instead of the exaggerated one everyone else is repeating, subscribing helps this channel keep finding it, and it takes about 2 seconds before you keep watching. The connection is this: none of these 3 demanding schedules were optional, and none of them were chosen the way an ordinary young adult chooses a challenging goal for themselves. In March 2023, Spain's defense minister announced that as heir to the throne, Leonor would undergo a full military background and career, describing it as an essential step toward eventual leadership of the country. That's the key distinction most coverage misses. A civilian who enlists in the military chooses that discipline, that early wake-up call, that structured life, because they want it, or because they see a clear personal benefit in it. Leonor's schedule was set in motion by a constitutional role she was born into, not one she applied for. The 6:30 réveil, the shared barracks, the 11 o'clock curfew, none of it was a personal choice in the way it would be for anyone else standing in those same barracks beside her. And that distinction matters because it reshapes what these 3 demanding years actually represent. This wasn't simply young royal builds character through discipline, the kind of tidy narrative that gets repeated in a lot of coverage. It was roughly 2 years of Leonor's early 20s, arguably some of the most personally formative years most people experience, spent inside a structure designed to prepare the country's next head of state, with almost no room for the kind of exploration, mistakes, and self-discovery that shape most people during that same stretch of life. It's also worth noting what came immediately before this military phase, because it shows this pattern of structured obligation isn't new. Rather than going straight to university after secondary school, the royal household announced in 2023 that Leonor would first complete this military training, describing it as the necessary next formative stage given her responsibilities, first as heiress and later as future queen. Even the sequencing of her own education, university deferred in favor of military service, was a decision made around the demands of her future role, not around her personal academic interests at 18. There is a genuinely admirable side to all of this, and it's worth being fair to that. Leonor completed the same demanding requirements as roughly 600 fellow cadets in Zaragoza, learned to sail aboard the training vessel Juan Sebastián Elcano, and by all accounts pushed through a training program most people, royal or not, would find genuinely difficult. This September, rather than resting on that achievement, she begins a 4-year political science degree at Carlos III University in Madrid, adding academic demands on top of a schedule that will only grow busier as her public duties expand. But admiration for her discipline shouldn't erase the more uncomfortable part of this story, which is that discipline was never really optional for her in the first place. A 6:30 wake-up call chosen freely as character building. A 6:30 wake-up call mandated by constitutional necessity, repeated across 3 separate academies over 2 years, with no path to opt out, is something closer to what the title of this video is actually pointing toward. Not a single dramatic hardship, but a slow, sustained absence of the ordinary freedom to simply choose a different kind of morning. If breaking down the real version of these stories, the one grounded in verified sourcing instead of exaggerated numbers, is valuable to you, subscribing helps this channel keep making them. It's free, it takes 2 seconds, and it's the easiest way to catch the next one. So the next time you see a headline claiming Leonor wakes up at 5 in the morning, you'll know the real number, and more importantly, you'll understand why the real number was never really the point. 3 academies, 2 years. A curfew, a shared room, a flight simulator preparing her to eventually take manual control of a military aircraft, all of it mandatory, all of it in service of a role she never applied for. That's the actual price behind the routine, and it's a far more interesting story than the exaggerated version currently circulating online. Transparency note: this script distinguishes verified facts, the confirmed 6:30 a.m. reveille schedules at Zaragoza, Marin, and San Javier, the specific details of Leonor's flight training program, her 2023 announcement to undergo military training, and her upcoming Carlos III University enrollment, from editorial interpretation regarding the personal cost of her position, which reflects reasonable inference rather than any personal statement from Leonor herself or an official statement from the Casa Real. The commonly circulated 5 a.m. claim is not supported by Academy sourcing and is corrected in this script's opening.